Hello everyone and welcome to today's speed build. So today I took on a shell challenge from the Obsessed Sinner. It was a really good one and I completely didn't read the rules and basically broke all the rules. Well, I broke one rule, but this is what I built. It's a ranch house, so let's see what I did. So this is the first part of the build. It is a bit of a lengthy build, so I split it into two again. And so we're going to do an exterior build and then the interior part in part 2. So I'm actually started off with building a pond. So not usually where I start, but it is where I started in this particular build, just for reasons. There we go. I had the reasons and this is what I did. So I wanted to build like something with like a kind of deserty watering hole kind of vibe to it. So I'm using sort of a lot of rocks and sort of the drier grasses that I could. But I mean, a lot of the grasses that you get with water are green. But I mean, that makes sense because it's around the water anyhow. But I used like the dead tree that came with the horse ranch kit. And as you can see, just using a mix of the base game rocks as well as the horse ranch rocks as well. Just filling in a few gaps there. And I am going to start adding the greenery soon and the trees and stuff. And you can see the shell there in the background, so that's going to be built upon. I'm on the, what's the lot up the top in Chestnut Ridge? It's the 50 by 50 lot in Chestnut Ridge anyway. I can't remember, Palomino Junction I think? That could be right, that could be right. So that's the lot I'm on, so it's a 50 by 50 lot, and yeah, I'm going to build like a sort of a working ranch with a working stable and like a little nectar office. And a home, and yeah, pretty comfortable living I think. So you're just adding in like all the horse ranch bits and pieces. I was just deciding on what colour the water wanted to be, and I thought that was actually quite a good dusty colour. It suited the vibe of the pond. And then I'm just getting a bit more greenery in there as well with the pond grass and stuff like that, just doing it around the rocks and adding a bit more life to the pond because, you know, the water is life when it comes to the desert, so it makes sense to have a little bit of greenery around where the water is. And adding in lots more green. That's really all I'm doing. I actually end up throwing in some duckies. So I always like having like some little bits of wildlife in there. I thought about doing like a crocodile, but I thought the pond was a little bit small for a crocodile, so that might be a little bit odd. Ducks might make a little bit more sense. And it wasn't like a fancy classical estate or anything like that where you might see swans on the pond. So ducks, you know, I could see ducks in this particular pond. That made sense. If there were like a frog option, actually that would be really cool, wouldn't it? Like having a frog option for the ponds, because I mean you got like mosquitoes and dragonflies, or was it just dragonflies? Anyway, it'd be cool to have like a frog option. It would be so cool. Ribbit. And I'm just adding in, that's the duckies going in there now. I'm just adding in some of the dry bushes from the vampire pack, I think. There wasn't like, I didn't want to use debug, so I just didn't want to be searching through debug for hours looking for dry bushes, to be honest. So I'm just sort of using what was available from general pack play. So yeah, that's what I came up with. And I'm just adding in like a little porch, sort of a little decking area where you know, the Sims could sit in the evenings and just sort of watch the ducks swim around and maybe enjoy the coolness coming off the water. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. So I ended up actually fussing around with this little porch for ages because I couldn't quite decide on what size I wanted it to be. Was the main problem. I'm just adding in some hay bale seating for vibes. It's really just the essence of it. So yeah, so I was originally just going to do something a little small thing, and then it just got a little bit bigger because I decided I wanted to put a fire in the middle. And yeah, the size of the porch, a little decking thing as it sat was like a little bit too small, and then I was like too big, and I was like, should I double up? And then I just wanted it to be even. So I was like trying to work out what size and stuff I wanted it to be, and then it sort of like was invading on the rocks, so I had to tweak those a little bit. But yeah, this is what the size ends up being. I do end up having to change the colour of it because I changed the colour of the house. at some point I do something a little bit different with the colour of the house, so I change the colour of this decking at one point or another later in the build. But for right now, this is the colour it's going to be, because this was the colour that the house was going to be initially. Things change as you build. So there you go. So it's got like a little fire there that came with the horse ranch set, and then the seats and the flowers that came with the horse ranch set, and those coffee tables. Oh, I don't know which set they came with. I can't remember. Oh, just doing the terrain paint there, so adding in a bit of colour and I guess texture to the pond area as well. And there'll be a lot more of the terrain paint coming into play a little bit later in the build, as you know how these things go with getting the exterior on a large lot done. There's a bit of landscaping to be done. So now we're moving on to the exterior of the house. I'm just deciding what to do with the roof and how that's going to go. So that little angled roof was actually quite a little tricky thing just to work out what I was going to do there, but I think I come up with a good solution, and I think it worked quite nicely. So it was a matter of working out where I wanted that roof angle to come in, and how far I wanted the little overhang to hang. So the rules that I broke was that we weren't supposed to make any exterior walls. So yeah, I broke that completely. I just did not read the rules. I don't know, I just didn't read them. So anyway, this is me breaking the rules right here. Anyhow, that's okay. I did not expect to win this, because I am very good friends with the Obsessed Sinner, and you know, it just felt like a bit of nepotism if I won. So, but I just wanted to participate just for fun, because I love doing shell challenges. I think they're a good challenge with your building. You have to get creative sometimes with how you do it, and yeah, I just like doing them. So there. So as you can see there, I'm getting the front entranceway and the back entranceway made. So they're coming together nicely. I decided to make that side area into a porch that wraps around, and then there's another porch around the back there that you can see. And I'm just going to put the back porch there underneath. I mean, I actually leave that a little bit raised so that it is differentiated from the ground. I just didn't want it quite on the ground, but I don't know, I just didn't want to lift the house up either and put it on a foundation. So yeah, happy medium there. And now we are moving on to the stables. So I am just getting the stable all built and working out how that's going to lay out. And it's going to be a 3-stable stable, so it's got 3 stalls there for horses, and I'm doing it in the sort of light brown at this stage. I can't remember if I changed that or not, so let's see what I do later. It's a good chance I do. So I'm just working out how I'm just changing the porch, the back decking around, because I was just working out how far and how wide the horse enclosure was going to be, because I was conscious of the fact that those jumps and those barrels do take up a lot of room, and I wanted to have a decent amount of room. I mean, you're going to fit 3 horses in there, so you want to have a decent amount of room. And I'll put, plenty of gates in so they can go in and out and gallop around and do what they're going to do. So it's the paddock gates going in there so they can run around and do their things. But I mean, a lot of the lot's going to be filled with bits and pieces, so I'm just putting in prairie grass around the edge of the pond there. There's a bit of prairie grass in the horse enclosure too. And then in this area here is going to be the gardens, so that's going to be for the nectar making gardens, because you need a lot of, well, lots of different ingredients. Helps with your nectar making. So if you're going to make a real go of it as a business, it's good to have your own ingredients growing. You can check out my nectar making tips in my tip playlist if you like. I'll link it in the description below for you as well. If you don't know too much about nectar making, I've got a few key tips there so you can learn all about it. Now I am just building like a little nectar making office / sleeping area so it's going to have like a bathroom, a bed, and nectar making area, a desk, so that if you're spending a lot of time nectar making, you can just crash out there. You can go to the bathroom. You still need to go into the main house if you want to eat. I didn't want to go like full out with an extra workers accommodation with like food and stuff like that, but I thought that would be quite handy for if you're in there doing your nectar making. Plus nectar making actually gets you quite dirty, so I mean you're jumping around in juice, so that makes sense, right? Getting quite dirty when you're nectar making. So I made a little office with the attached bathroom and a bed, because it's also quite tiring doing nectar making, so maybe you just want to crash out while you're there as well. So go back to the main house, I don't know, but it is it's a handy little office living area anyhow. So I'm just putting in the walls at this stage. So I'm using this colour now, but this will change later on because I decided to go a different direction with the colouring, but you'll see that later when I work that out. I have not worked that out at the moment. I'm just working on the windows, what size windows I want to do. So it's nice, light and bright, and I'm just using the horse ranch curtains going in there too, so keeping it on theme. I do use a lot of horse ranch stuff, but I mean this is not a limited pack build at all. I genuinely don't do limited pack builds for shell challenges. This is where I sort of go all out and just use whatever I please. So this is what I did, but a good majority of stuff is horse ranch, because obviously it's a horse ranch and that made sense. This is me just finding an appropriate bed colour, because it wasn't supposed to be a kid's bed, and a bit of a painting as well, just to bring some life to that, and I think that came together quite nicely. So just getting in some terrain paint and doing a path back to the main house there and through to the stables as well. And now I'm going to work on the back porch area, which is going to include a lovely pool and barbecue and bar and all the socialisation kind of things that you like to have in a nice home. So you invite people over for that. And here's me deciding whether or not I want to have, how I want to have the pool, if I want to have it up or down, or what I'm doing, and yeah, I eventually got there. Oh boy. Yeah, I was just mucking around with colours and that sort of thing, and then it just deleted that. Okay, so what are we doing next? So I'm just getting in some columns, and I was thinking whether or not I was going to extend a roof out over that that porch area, but I decided not to do that. But I did want to add spandrels to the front and back, so that required me to put in a little bit of a room there and delete it, so that I can have the spandrels running up. And same ideally with this area here. Yeah, so I couldn't run my spandrels around, so I needed to create a little room, and just ended up having to fuss around a little bit with that one, because I think I stuffed something up at some point anyhow. But I wanted to use the sort of the columns and spandrels kind of effect, because that has that sort of that Western ranchy kind of feel. So that's what I wanted to do. And you see I'll do the same thing on the back entrance as well with the spandrels, so adding those in, and the columns on either side, just to create like an entrance effect with that. And I'm sort of using that quite golden stone. I think that's really pretty. So, and I haven't really used that much lately, so or as yet. I tend to go for like either the grey stone or the lighter brown stone rather than golden. So yeah, I think that ended up looking quite nice. And I use the columns for contrast too. And you see I'm just using the darkest option for the horse ranch roofing too. And putting in the triangle windows. Hello there, triangle windows. Oh, and I'm just deleting the extra roof under there, just because it stood out. You can see the little bit overhanging, the little bit of concrete overhanging. And I was like, yeah. Be gone, little concrete overhang. This is, I'm just having a look. I'm just starting to get the feel that I'm not really that keen on the colour. That I definitely wasn't keen on. So this is me just having to think about the colour and what I wanted to do there and what was working and what wasn't. So yeah, I'm starting to go slightly darker now, more the mid-brown rather than the light brown. And that is a start of the garden. So you can see me terrain painting there, just doing a little bit of outlines for gardens and that sort of thing, just a bit of dirt, and it's just to add in like a little bit of realism really to the feel of it, like there's a little bit of depth to it. That's the idea. Whether or not I achieve it, I don't know, but that's the idea of what I was going for. I try. Whether or not I succeed, I don't know, but that's okay. I'm having fun trying, and that's the main thing. Okay, and I'm just doing a bit more terrain paint around under the fences around where the horses would run. So that's sort of like the obvious sort of areas that would get sort of muddy and, you know, overworked and that sort of thing around under their playing balls. And in the main path, like to and from their stalls. So it kind of makes sense to have like little paths that go around and then, you know, in and out of the gate as well. So just adding in all the colouring really to the lot, just to add, you know, something a little bit more than the plain terrain. Mixing it up. I thought about a tree in the middle. I was like, nah, the horses deserve to be able to run around. I'm going to come back and do a little bit more terrain paint later. So I am currently painting the outside of the house, and just so again, just painting it with the sort of a mid-golden kind of brown really on that one. And with the foundation, I went with a darker top and then a lighter option for the decking. So you end up going on lighter brown with that. I've got the lighter coloured roof trim at the moment, but that is probably going to change when I change the colours of the columns and stuff like that too. So you'll see me do that, I think, soon. Yeah, here we go. So I ended up deciding that I wanted to go darker with my trims, because I felt that that was going to be a little bit more effective than the lighter trim. The lighter trim just sort of washed the colour of that golden stone out, and I just wanted it to sort of glow and have a bit more life to it. So I found that putting the darker trim actually really helped with that. Well, that's what I thought anyway, so you are welcome to disagree with me if you don't think that's the case, but that's what I thought and that's what I did. So that's where I had a little bit of trouble with the spandrels behaving, but anyway, I got there in the end. And so yeah, so getting the spandrels changed over, the roof trim changed over, and I'm also changing the fencing trim on the decking as well. And I did like a mid-brown, what's it called? Deck trim, I guess. Edge trim on the sides. So I think I will change the windows and the doors in the stable area and the nectar making office area as well. So we'll change those over so they are darker at a later point, because I didn't remember about those until later. So again, just putting another little garden space there and another garden space there. And I'm just going to even out that pathway a little bit. There we go, making progress. It's coming together really nicely. So getting some more of that dark fencing in. I will leave some little gaps in the fencing so that they can, there we go, so they can get in and out. Because it's like, I will make a whole section and then they can't get to it. Yes. Oh, and I'm just changing the decking around here. And this is where I was like, oh, hang on, they didn't do a platform trim that matched the horse ranch foundation. I didn't really actually realise that. So I was like, oh, I'd forgotten it, one of the two. So it's like, well, that's a bit irritating. Why didn't they do the matching platform for the foundation and horse ranch? Things that make you go, and we are starting to decorate the back porch area now. So we've got a bar going in here, and there'll be some seating, and I'm using the beautiful Desert Luxe set for the outside. I just felt that was kind of perfect for a ranch, kind of is in the desert vibe. It makes sense because it is the Desert Luxe pack. So I think that's really pretty and a good choice for this particular house to have that use that kit, and I use the little table things as well. With that, I think I do change to a darker colour though, and it's just like a little drinks tray going on there. You know, it's kind of that luxe feel to it, which is, I think it's really nice. And I'm going to use some of the Get Together pool stuff. So it's the Get Together pool jumping in thing. Pool jumping in thing, oh boy. And the heading. Alright, and then I've got the barbecue. I actually decided not to do the Horse Ranch barbecue. I went with the Desert Luxe. I think it's a Desert Luxe barbecue. It's definitely a kit barbecue anyway. It looks like it's a Desert Luxe barbecue. And I went with the holiday picnic seating as well, because I thought that sort of, in terms of the tone and colour of it, it kind of worked quite nicely. And then some more of the Desert Luxe seating going in there. I decided to actually stretch that right along because, you know, there was the room, so why not? And it'll be quite nice to sit there in the evenings and enjoy a nice cup of tea or something on the back porch. That sounds quite lovely on a nice sunny evening. And just using the little book kit tray with the cup on it and a book. It's a cute little tray. I like that tray. So I'm just starting to figure out what I want to do with the garden. So that's something I was thinking about. What would sort of be an appropriate garden for the desert, sort of ranch kind of feel. So I actually ended up going for like a lot of grasses and rocks, basically. So that's yeah, sort of ferns, grasses and rocks was kind of what I ended up deciding with the garden, and that just kind of went with what I put around the pool as well. So I think that sort of logically followed through and would make sense to see in a, you know, in a ranch setting. And then also some more of the deserty sort of cacti probably is a better way to put that than cactuses, cacti. In their little setting as well, so I will add some more of that round in different areas too, but that will follow through as a theme throughout the build. So this is where I'm going to do a little bit more of a contained garden around the front, which is you know, that modern vibe as well, having a contained garden. So I think that made sense on 2 levels for me with the type of garden it was. Hey, if you can feel free to disagree, this is just how I thought about it. Yeah, because A, it's a modern ranch, and B, it's a ranch, so kind of deserty contained grasses and things like that just made sense. I was going to do more garden around there, and then I thought, well, no, actually a little front porch would make sense in this area, so I decided to go with a little front porch instead, just like that. And then once again, it was just a matter of working out what angle I wanted that to sit and how far that flat bit would sit out, and match the sort of the roof. And then once again, just matching the rest of the build with the foundation and the dark railing going around the side as well. And then just another little garden going in there, so it matches the other front part. I think that ended up being actually looking really cute, so I was happy with how that came out. Because when you've got like such a big lot, it is, unless you've got a super massive house, and I mean this wasn't, I mean it's a shell challenge, so the size of the house is the size of the house, but yeah, unless you've got a really super big house, you do end up having, you know, at least a decent amount of landscaping to have to think about in a bigger lot, like a 50 by 50 or a 64 by 64 lot. With the ranches, obviously you've got the obvious choice of having a stable area and a horses area. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but I did. And then obviously in the nectar making as well, I wanted to make sure that was added in too. I had to fuss around with this little rug for a while because I wanted something that could logically be outside, but yeah, just getting the right shape. But that actually ended up being quite a good shade and shape and look for the outside area. So I'm just doing some more of the grasses and ferns and a bit more of the prairie grass as well, and just filling up that corner there. And I'll just add like a little tiny water feature there, because you get that little you know, that little fountain type thing that you get with the horse ranch set. If you don't know, then you'll see me put it in. It's like a tap running over like a bucket. It's just like a tiny water feature. But I just sort of thought, well, we'll just have like a little place where perhaps a seat could go, and It might be on the way round to the backyard, and it could be just like a little feature area. So there, that's it going in there. And then I decided that I would do a little bit of the terrain paint and just make it like an actual proper path kind of seating area of it, and that running through there. Then I had the trouble of thinking about what I wanted to do with the rest of this area. Like, did I want to run gardens all around it, or how was I going to sort of make this look like something? Because I was initially, you can see that here, I was initially thinking about putting a garden in, and I was like, I don't really want this to be too lush with gardens. Like, little patches of it cool, but if there's too much, I mean, it's not really the desert, you know? So I did get kind of a bit stuck there as to what I wanted to do. Then I thought, well, you know what they have in the desert? They have lots of stones. So then I had to work out which stones I wanted to use for around the path, because the desert ones that you get, or the orangey ones that you get with the horse ranch, are just not a good size for path lining. So I had to get like one of the base banging ones and change the colour of it, but it's not the same colour palette as the horse ranch one, which is a shame. I mean, it'd be great if like there was a colour palette that matched that. That would have made life easier for me this particular day. But I did use this base game colour around the pond as well, so it's not actually weird for me to have used this colour, because it's already established as something that I've been using around in other parts of the build. So I thought this was actually a good colour, and it worked nicely for lighting the paths. And it's a bit of a tedious job, but I think it actually adds sort of like, you know, a really nice effect to the pathways, and it worked really nicely for this particular build, where you've got, you know, a bit more of a rustic feel to it. And I'm just adding a bit of terrain paint just to add a bit more realism to the ground. That's essentially what it is, isn't it? Just adding a bit more realism to how the ground should look, with a bit of the dirt and the darkness around there. And then I was left with this big space around the back, and I had a thought, like the other day I was building something, and I saw the hot pool, and I was like, you know what, I should use this hot pool more often. And that thought came back to me at that moment, and I was like, I should put a hot pool in here, because that would make sense. I know it's not Mount Komorabi, but at the end of the day, I think a hot pool in the desert could make sense. So yeah, we're going to put a hot pool in here. So I'm just getting a lot of the prairie grass around here, and just making it like a little oasis was kind of the vibe that I was going for. So like, you know, a little hot pool oasis. And I think it looked actually really nice, and it's a cool way to finish off this corner of the build. So there's like these little corners and little spots where, you know, there's a little bit of greenery in life, and that's where the sort of the more of the water is. Because as I said, water is life in the desert, so that makes sense. So just getting a bit of the terrain paint in. I wasn't 100% happy with how that was coming together, so I will play around with that a little bit more. So you'll see me doing that. And then obviously I need to do a path to the hot pools, because that would make sense. That would be a popular area in the house that you would come and go, you know, to the hot pool. I didn't, however, want to put rocks around this back path, simply because I felt that if they were walking there, you wouldn't want to be stepping over rocks to go like over to the paddock or around to a different section of the house. So yeah. Anyway, that's the exterior of the build done. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!